All right, well, it's 4:03. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Nikki Julian. I'm the Outreach Director for Arizona Wildlife Federation, and we are the host of the Get Outdoors Arizona Business Coalition. And starting us off today is going to be Scott Garland, the Executive Director of Arizona Wildlife Federation. And kind of before we get started on our talk today, we're going to do a little overview of the agenda. Let's see if I can get my clicker going to the next slide. There we go. There's our agenda. We're going to do a quick round of introductions, and then Scott's going to talk about the overview and purpose of Get Outdoors Arizona. Bob Broscheid is going to be our guest speaker today. He's the Executive Director of Arizona State Parks. And then we're going to be having a talk about our next steps for GoAZ and what we can provide for each other. All right, we still have a couple people entering here. Let's go back to that introduction. So again, my name is Nikki. We also have a couple of our nonprofit partners are here with us today. There's Grand Canyon Trust. Thank you, Amber, for being with us today. And Nate from the Arizona chapter of Trout Unlimited. And then our other partner is Arizona Trails Association, and hopefully Matthew's on the line. But we really want to focus on our businesses. So if we can go around kind of the horn and find out who's here with us today. Ben, since you're the first face I see, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm working on two monitors, so you'll see me go back and forth a bit. But I'm Ben Bethel. I just retired last year after selling the Clarendon Hotel and Spa in Phoenix, which I owned for 15 years. I also have 20 properties throughout Arizona, mostly in Phoenix, but I also have a place in Flagstaff, coming up on 2 properties that are on Airbnb.
Ash, how about you? Oh, we have you on mute. Hold on. We'll get you unmuted. There we go. Now you're unmuted.
Okay, good.
I think that was on our end.
Right. My name is Ash Patel. I'm based out of Mesa, Arizona. I've been in Arizona since 1991 and started my career in Flagstaff, and been in that market for now almost 30 years. And I have assets in northern Arizona, Sedona, and have 4 restaurants here in the valley. And I have multiple hotels in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. And I am good friends with everybody up in northern Arizona that had interest in preserving the Grand Canyon National Park and our way of life in terms of hunting, fishing, animal welfare, things of that different nature, being that I love being in Flagstaff, and was invited to join the group, which I did. And so I'm here to learn and see how I can help.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Andrew, can you unmute yourself or there? Okay, I might have to do that for us. There you go.
Awesome. This is also, forgive me, this is my first time using Zoom, so hopefully no glitches on my end. Yeah, I kind of the same story. You know, I'm with Sasquatch Fuel. We do backcountry meals and snacks. We just partnered with the Arizona Trail about a year ago for our new Kickin' Cactus meal. We went down to Flagstaff for the Arizona Trail Day event last September, and that was awesome. It was great being a part of that community down there, and it definitely felt like a second home. But we just joined this coalition, and yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Margaret, how about you?
My name's Margaret de Hess, and I'm the owner of Rim Runners, which is a hiking running store in Payson, Arizona. And I got an invite to join this meeting. I'm very interested in your group. We do a lot of work with educating people up in Payson around all of the trails, both in the Matazal Mountains and the Mogollon Rim. And we've worked very closely with the Arizona Trail Association.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. All right. The rest of you just have phone numbers, so I'm going to refer to you as 4426. It's the last four.
Hey, Nikki, this is Bob Brush at State Parks. I think that is my number,
fantastic.
I believe.
All right. Good. Well, I'm going to let you talk in just a minute, Bob.
Sure, I'll stand by.
Sounds good. Sounds good. How about 4534? If they can hear me yet. 484-639-4534.
Or we can just have people speak up, I think would be fine.
Okay. That'd be fine. We only have 3 others, so if that any of the either of the other 2 that are on the phone, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Okay, hopefully you'll be less shy in a bit here. We'll give you a chance to say hi. All right, we're gonna Scott, we're gonna segue over to you, and you can start talking about the overview of GoAZ.
Sure. If you can't hear me, give a shout, but otherwise I'm going to assume you can hear me okay. Again, thanks everyone for signing on. Sorry, we had originally hoped to do this launch at Arizona Wilderness Brewing Company, which probably would have been a lot more fun, but given the current situation, here we are, like everyone else, trying to accomplish things by using Zoom. So thanks for signing on, thanks for your time, and thanks for your interest. You know, just as a summary, we started kicking around the idea of how do we get businesses that depend on outdoor recreation and all the great opportunities that we have in Arizona to be a little bit more unified, to help raise their voice, to get them more informed on issues that affect outdoor recreation in Arizona. And so we started talking about this business coalition. And there's a number of other states that have similar things, and Bob maybe is going to talk about this, I'm not sure, but Colorado, where Bob comes from, is one that's got a really strong business coalition that's working. There's about 17 different states. Most of the states in the West have them. And, you know, when we first talked about it, we really wanted to kind of do a few things: educate and raise awareness and advocate for the outdoor recreation economy and the issues that affect that powerful economic driver in Arizona. And then, like I said, to elevate the voices of local businesses around those issues. And to be honest, we were probably thinking more about the advocacy part of it and educating people on issues. I heard Andrew or someone refer to the Grand Canyon, for example, or of course there's funding like Land and Water Conservation Fund, which affects probably every business that's certainly signed up for this coalition thus far. So we were thinking a lot about advocacy, but given the current situation, you know, I think it's more appropriate that we probably have our focus and our emphasis on public lands and getting outdoors as just the importance of the outdoor recreation economy and kind of an important part of maybe the healing process for many people. I'm sure you've all witnessed firsthand or heard about how many more people are going out to trails, and sometimes not even doing that maybe in a responsible way, but it does kind of tell you how important these things are to us in good times and in particularly in times like these. So our current focus, rather than focusing on the advocacy, is to focus on number 1 up there at the top, the importance of Arizona's outdoor recreation economy, and then supporting the businesses that make outdoor recreation possible, like you guys. So that's kind of why we're here. And with that, I think what we had intended was Bob's gonna talk a little bit about his vision for outdoor recreation in the state of Arizona and maybe the importance of outdoor recreation to the economy of Arizona. And then, like Nikki said, we'll come back and talk a little bit about other things that we're hoping to do. So if that's okay, I'd be happy to take any questions that people might have at this time about, you know, what we're trying to accomplish with this coalition and where it's likely to go from here. I would say that we certainly hope that you guys that are on the line help us form this thing. We're hoping that this is going to grow organically and that over time it's going to take on kind of a life of its own. We don't plan to be the long-term hosts of it. We think that the business community is well positioned to take care of themselves and speak for themselves. We just want to kind of give it a jump start. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions if we make sure people are unmuted. And then we'll pass it over to Bob. No need, with a relatively small group like we've got, no need to raise your hand on Zoom. If you're familiar with that process, just jump out and speak, please. Okay, if there's no questions at this point, you'll get some more chances to talk. But I would like to introduce Bob Broscheid, our Director of State Parks in Arizona. And this is an area of passion for him. He comes from Colorado, where they recently have an Office of Outdoor Recreation and got some pretty strong coalitions there. In fact, a lot of what we did, we patterned after the statewide business coalition in Colorado, or at least our vision of what we're going to do, I should say, is patterned after that. And so, you know, what better person to talk about the direction and vision for Arizona Outdoors than Bob Broscheid. So Bob, take it away, and thanks for being here.
Well, Scott, thank you, and Nikki for the invite. And Scott can tell you all that when he asked, well, when he sent me an email and sort of described, and then we get to talk a little bit on the phone, was really excited about this for several reasons. One, for us, and I've been, and I'll go into my resume just a little bit, just so you know who is this guy and what's he talking about. But really thought about a lot over 27 years in this sort of industry, is having industry at the table, whether it's private or you're public, and being able to start a conversation of we're all in this together, and how can we help? And so to let you know, I worked for just about 20 years at Arizona Game and Fish Department, and then I had the chance to, you know, various levels throughout the organization, and then I've had the chance to go work for John Hickenlooper in Colorado for the last 5 years, where I ran the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Division. Up there, it was a merged agency legislatively, and it allowed us to take a broader view of what are we doing, or what are we trying to accomplish. Having Colorado being an incredible outdoor recreation state, you guys know the companies that are there. There is a lot. The governor then established the outdoor recreation agency, essentially. I hate to call it an agency. It was two people, but basically created the outdoor rec department within the governor's office, was a way to incentivize, encourage folks in the outdoor industry to come to Colorado, build your products, sell your products, and be nationwide. And I think a lot of you know the big hitters that are there. Osprey, Coleman was there, you know, major hunting, fishing organizations. That when I got there, and I'll let you know why I was so excited when Scott called, is because when you work for a hunting or fishing organization, Arizona's no different. You have a lot of groups that have pull on you, or want you to do this, or hate it when you do these things, and it led to an epiphany, I guess, one day that I and a couple others had with the folks at Trout Unlimited there, the Nature Conservancy and others, and we sat down and said, you know, do you guys feel like that our relationship, whether that's good or bad, is defined by what we disagreed on or what we agreed on? And there are a lot of and I think for the trust and for TU that is on the phone, I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, where there will be philosophical or mission or comments or something along those lines. And then what that did was allowed groups to start splintering and splintering and splintering. And next thing you know, nobody's talking. And at one point, and in working with Scott's counterparts in Colorado, with the Colorado Wildlife Federation, as a seat at this table, we created this group. It was called the Colorado Outdoor Partnership, and you can look at that website. I can't remember the name of it, but if you just Google Colorado Outdoor Partnership, you'll see a whole bunch of logos that are on there, and more importantly, you'll see the ones that aren't. And it was really the industry side, the private and public industry side of outdoor recreation. My experience has been, whether it's in a hunting, fishing, or combined agency, or where I am now in the state parks, I think they're not only on purpose, but I think there was a subservient relationship. I talk to employees all the time who will say, well, they only exist because we do a good job. And I don't think that's the case. That is not my view on how our relationship should be with industry, with non-governmental organizations, and other governmental organizations. It should be a codependence. We work to help, you work to help us, and together what we do is we are furthering this mission of conserving the outdoors, providing quality but sustainable outdoor recreation, and then working together to make that possible with here in the state. That is exactly what we tried to do with the co-op. Our next phase was to bring in industry and create a very similar group there as well. And then, of course, I ran out of time there, and Governor Ducey hired me back to run our state parks division. But I guess my approach to running state parks is there, when you had a big agency like Colorado Parks and Wildlife there, you really had an agency that had its eyes and ears on the ground, had a whole bunch of partners out there and was listening. That's what I want to bring to Arizona. Arizona is lacking leadership in that aspect. There is no one entity, there is no one agency. We're being defined by what we disagree on and not what we agree on. And I think as we start pumping out documents, like you can pull up our statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and you can look at our Arizona's, which was passed before I came, but you can look at what we did with Colorado, and you can see that it's a different document. It is much more inclusive in listening to industry. I will tell you, I believe it was Osprey that we sat down with, and they had data on customer and consumer trends that we had no idea about. And we were always seemed to be following so far behind the trends, where companies, like that are talking to their customers and what do their customers need and what are they looking for. Again, that's just one benefit of having a much better relationship, a working relationship, a codependent relationship, that we can now look at things like, what is legislation that is passing, whether we're pushing it or somebody's pushing on us, that could be detrimental to you and your operations in the outdoor recreation field itself. So I have very excited about this group. I really think this is where the future is. Colorado, Arizona, to some extent, at Game and Fish Department, really thought threats were somebody or some group or some issue. And when I got to see how a lot of our groups, just our non-governmental groups who are working within the states, what they're disagreeing on is really not, in my mind, the threat. I think the threat that we all have in common that brought our co-op together, and I think it could bring us closer together, is the indifference to the outdoors. That, to me, is the number one threat that at least in my view, that we are seeing, is people don't care about the outdoors. They're becoming much more urbanized. They don't know where to go. They're scared to go. They're multiple generations removed from being outdoors. And to me, that is the real threat. So how can we look at that, and how can we tackle that together? And I think with this group, that the federations pulled together is very, very important. We could use your help, you could use our help, and let's find those commonalities that we can all agree on and move forward. I think you guys have seen Outdoor Industry Association, again, that was located in Boulder, Colorado, was kind of nice. We got to get some really cool data real quickly, but you know, we're looking at what, $185 billion here in Arizona, $702 billion in total expenditures. I mean, the interest is there, the desire is there. I can tell you from personal experience, since COVID-19 has hit, that people will, I'm not saying they're risking their lives, but they have to and want to be outside. There's a need to be outside. Our day use in our parks, we've had to ratchet down because of social distancing and other things, but we have seen people's desire to get outside. It has not curbed as a result of COVID-19. And to me, that says something. When the governor has said outdoor recreation, and Bob, you will keep your parks open as long as they're safe for your staff and for the public, but you're going to keep them open because they need to get outside. Whether it's physical health or mental health, you all know why we're here. How can we translate that into future, either future consumers or park pass buyers or whatever that may be? But to me, making sure that our state in a growing population is that we can continue to recruit those new folks, we can continue to get them out and get them in your stores, we can get them into your organizations, and also at the same time as we can educate and see park pass buyers, and we can see trail users and all of those types of things. So I'm really, really excited about this. I really think there's something here, and honestly, I think it's a long time coming for Arizona and for a lot of states actually, is that we can sit down and have this conversation. I am for those of you that have worked with me before, you will know. I will listen. I do listen to industry. I do listen to our partners because I don't know everything. That's honest. I'll be right out of the gate. I don't know everything, but how can we then work together to continue outdoor recreation, continue to make it the industry that it is here in Arizona, and also at the same time make it better. And also, you know, taking that responsibility that we have is to also conserve those natural resources out there. And it's going to take some organizations like we did at the Colorado Outdoor Partnership. It's going to take some organizations to take a hard look at themselves and agree. What came out of that was, if you can get on that website, is you can look at what those guiding principles that anybody who has sit in a group like this before, I think, Scott, you've been there, when you try to put down on paper in wording guiding principles, it was an exercise from hell, I will tell you. But we ended up coming out of there that with agreement of principles that we all agree to. And take a look at those. They're the first in the country. And when I left, it was the only agency in the country and the state in the country that actually adopted these, and it allowed us to all coalesce around what we agree on and not what we disagree on. And it was a really big step. And maybe I have some expertise here that I can help, but like I said, this is codependent. We depend on each other. It is not a subservient relationship. For state parks, I really see us being propelled into a leadership role in this state, because I really do think we're void of one at the federal, at the state, and also at the local or regional level here. There really isn't one entity that's really seeing what is going on out there and can represent industry. You all know how many meetings government has to be involved in that. Nobody has that capacity to get in there and work and grind and try to influence policy level decisions, where I think this group could be established. It could be a force. And I think Scott made a great point early on, is this is something that needs to carry on beyond administration, and it needs to live within those groups. And that's exactly what we did to the co-op in Colorado. Was I knew my days as a governor appointed director, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you don't want to see an organization like this, with the great things that they've done, fall because you had a director leave, or you've had a BLM person retire, or a new governor walk in. This needs to be bigger than the state, and that's what we created in Colorado. And I'd love to be able to, share any expertise. I will shut up and see if there's any questions, Scott, because I could ramble on for days. So I will end it there and see if there's any questions or comments or anything.
Well, great. Thanks so much, Bob. Any questions for Bob from anyone?
Yeah, this is Ash Patel, Bob. Being new, I just wanted to understand at what stage are we with GoAZ? Have we already created a charter? If so, what's that status of the charter? Is it a 501c, whatever that may be? Currently, do we have a group of members or vendor members or business members? How do you foresee funding the group? And when you mentioned the co-op, could you, when you get a chance, maybe mention the website that we can look at so that we can at least have some base as to what we're trying to create?
Yes.
Well, Scott, I can let you answer the other, but it's copartnership.org.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, and as far as GoAZ, we are in the process of forming. We've got, I think, about 3 different businesses that signed on so far. Nikki is gonna go over our website, some of the social media stuff in a minute, so I won't jump ahead to that. We are a 501c3. We're not expecting to be raising a lot of money or spending a lot of money. This is really to kind of, like I said initially, the point is to educate and raise awareness about the outdoor education or outdoor recreation economy and the issues that affect that. So we're not expecting it to be a big spend in terms of revenue. Right now, we're running it under the umbrella of the Arizona Wildlife Federation. But like I said before, eventually we hope that it's gonna spill out onto its own. Are there other questions for Bob, and more specifically about kind of his vision for outdoor recreation in Arizona and the state parks? I'll ask one, Bob, and this is just kind of specific to what's been happening recently. Obviously, the state legislature has been struggling with the budget, and the COVID crisis is making that particularly challenging. We tend to believe that the outdoor recreation economy is a really important economic driver. From your seat, is that something that the governor, that is recognized at the governor's office, or is there still work to do to get him to understand how important it is to the state of Arizona?
That's a great question, Scott. Yes, he does recognize that. He also knows that we are, for the outdoor recreation or even broader to get into the tourism, we also know with COVID-19 that what we're seeing is, particularly for us at an agency level, where we're seeing our funding, within the last 3 weeks, we've seen $1.2 million of revenue disappear for basically on day use and annual pass use and other tours and things that we've done. He also knows that it's very reliant on the hotel industry, the restaurant industry, what federal land managers are doing or not doing, what we're also all the way down to what cities and counties are doing. And I think where he's asked me is to get engaged, find out what is going on out there, so we do know So yeah, absolutely. From his office, I think that's why he recommended it twice in both of his executive orders, is that parks and outdoor recreation is an essential service, and that we will continue to perpetuate it in a following the guidelines of CDC and DHS, is that we're going to, we can continue to do that. And luckily we've been able to, but it's come at a cost. As we now start talking about, okay, when and if, the economy reopens, what is that going to look like? And his questions to me have been, well, how reliant are you on hotels? And how reliant are you on the restaurants and other industries out there that have really, most of them have closed or have been severely impacted. And that's what I mean with this codependence here is, well, parks are great, we're here, we exist, but without airlines, we don't see the international and national travelers. With stay-at-home orders, and you start to see that constrict around use, and then at the end of the day, it results in reduced revenue. The state, yeah, you're right, Scott. It is under a significant amount of expenditures right now that we're going to have to cough up. And the legislature and the governor's office, I think, are looking probably the next 5 weeks is really going to start talking about how big of a deficit is the state in with all of the expenditures of unemployment insurance and medical expenditures and all those other things. The feds have helped a little bit, but we're not in that conversation. We're not. It just seems like, where you got first responders and you got the health industry, you're going to start seeing the economy and the economic drivers. We have typically been left out of that loop. I think Game and Fish Department is probably another one. But when he has stood up recently with Debbie Johnson at the Arizona Office of Tourism is starting the discussion with not just agencies, but also private industry business owners and others of, well, what are the things that the governor needs to think about if and when he starts to reopen the economy? How do we get ourselves into that conversation? And I think we have a great opportunity right now. I'm sitting on that group, and I was just on a call right before this one with business leaders around the state, talking to the governor about, hey, if we were to open the economy, what would it look like? I can tell you, Outdoor Rec has a seat at the table in this, and I'll try to do my best. So
great. Thanks, Bob. Any other questions for Bob? If not, Nikki, I'll hand it back to you, and you can talk a little bit about next steps, or you and Sarah can talk about what's going on in more detail.
Sure. Well, first, our group has been such great listeners, and we'd really like to hear from you business leaders. What kind of things are you facing right now? What's going on? We pride ourselves on being a really diverse group of people. So what might be happening to one of you is totally different for another. So I was hoping that you guys would kind of chime in on that, of what's the current state of the outdoor rec from where you're standing.
I can speak a little bit to that if you'd like. I think that in speaking with a lot of the individuals related to the Clarendon Hotel in Phoenix that I sold, as you know, occupancy is down tremendously. Layoffs are up. There is no food and beverage side of that business, hospitality right now. In the short-term rental industry, which actually is becoming a really significant player in the Arizona economy and is closing in on being close to on par with the lodging industry, especially in smaller rural communities. It's extremely hard hit. So I'm talking to a lot of people who may just use their primary home to rent that out to people who are visiting rural communities and other communities like Sedona or Flagstaff or even places further out. and then using those properties as a base camp in order to begin their outdoor recreation activities for Arizona. And I think that that's one of the big things that we're seeing is those people who were relying upon that income to, just be able to keep their homes are really starting to worry tremendously. And I think that's where we have one of the largest opportunities in Arizona is that we have people who come into the urban areas. They go into Phoenix or Tucson, primarily Phoenix, but then really that's their hopping off point to visit the outdoor recreation sites and attractions of Arizona. So they arrive there, they may support those local small independent businesses, restaurants, and bars, retail shops, but then they'll leave and they start their multi-day adventure to go to different areas of Arizona where they're going to experience a lot of what the outdoor recreation industry has to offer. So if you've cut off the tap when it comes to flights coming into the valley, and then you start to see the traffic, greatly restricted to other communities that depend upon that visitation for their revenue when it comes to everything from lodging, bed tax revenues to just keeping people employed to tour operators and food and beverage. I think that that's one of the biggest impacts we're seeing currently, and it might be one of the bigger opportunities as well. And I think that with news that the Disney parks may not open until August, if at all, this year, with other major urban areas in the United States like New York, San Francisco, San Diego, New Orleans, Orlando, a lot of places that people would have gone to in the past, they may not be going back to until the fall of 2021 because those are high concentrations of individuals, high density areas where people just may not want to return to for quite some time. And I think that that's one of the biggest opportunities we have here in Arizona is, hey, you can still get to Arizona if we focus on the local residents, if we focus on the regional tourism travel, if we focus on, after that, then we focus on the national and international travel. But if we can at least say, hey, there's one of the most beautiful places on the planet is what we have here in Arizona. And if we can get people to understand that these great open outdoors are safe, healthy places to visit, then maybe there's a way to capture, an enormous amount of visitation from other areas of the country when people would have spent, $4,000 for a family of 4 to go to a Disney park for 3 nights. Maybe that revenue, even with increased unemployment, is some revenue that is available to attract visitation to the state and the state's outdoor recreation destination. I think that that's something that really helps for us as much as possible.
Thanks for your thoughts, Ben. Andrew, Sasquatch, what are you guys facing? What's going on with you?
It seems to be kind of the same situation up here in Montana where people are really getting outside and enjoying public land and open spaces. Especially now with a lot of people cooped up at their house and a lot of people not working, it's just certainly seems like the way to do something for your mental health right now. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing like for our meals right now an increase on our online sales, but I think a lot of that is from the initial panic as far as people afraid of going to the grocery store or food supply running out. But it's gone down since the last couple of weeks, I've noticed, and people are starting to not panic as much and get outside. And the biggest thing that I see right now is people overcrowding trailheads. So, I mean, it's for us, it's like, how do we put the right message out for people to get outside and enjoy those spaces, but to maybe not go to their favorite hiking trail that's, right in town because everybody else is doing the same thing. So, yeah.
I mean, from our side, I've been through the cycles of the SNL bailout and the 2001 bubble burst and the 2008 economy collapse. And what I noticed in my historical numbers is that when calamities of this kind, or the market-driven calamities that come economically, people tend to do a lot more domestic travel, and they tend to do more of outdoorsy kind of travel, which is less costlier than going to, say, San Francisco and paying $300, $500 a night for a hotel room. And even after 2008, when the market tanked, in our Northern Arizona hotels, I had hotels in Pine Top and I had hotels in Payson. We managed hotels in Williams, Lake Havasu. We noticed actually there was a surge. If you look at recession numbers, those economies actually held up pretty good compared to the rest of the nation. The challenge I see right now is obviously when we are comparing ourselves to Colorado. Colorado's marketing budget is 30-some million dollars, $27 million. Arizona is $7 million, right? How do we put that message out that Arizona and the great outdoors of Arizona is open, and that instead of you spending all this money in these high density destinations, come spend it in Arizona and it'll be spent wisely, or, you know, the right way. I don't know what the marketing message will be. We're going to have to adapt from AOT and AZTLA and everyone to send out that message to market Arizona. And that's something that Debbie Johnson will have to figure out, and her team, and you know, everyone that markets the state. But that's our key, I think, is how do we market everything we have to offer in the limited dollars that we have to do it in. And I know for a fact that international travel is going to be curbed, because people are still not going to have the confidence to travel internationally. So with this COVID, we might have a blessing in disguise to capture the domestic travel that will begin, because I think everywhere I call in the country, people are pented up to go somewhere. They weren't able to take the kids to spring break. Summer is pretty much going to be shot for most of them. They're cooped up in their houses. The only place that's safe, or much safer, I should say, to do is domestic and outdoors. Parks, trails, rivers, lakes, all those kinds of things. And we have the ability to capture it, but I just don't see us having the dollars to be a powerhouse out there when, you know, we're one of the top states to visit, but we have one of the lowest budgets to market.
Thanks, Ash. That's a really good point you're making. And one of the things that we're hoping to do with GoAZ, and this kind of moves us into our next steps, is capturing what it is that GoAZ can do with the outdoor recreation industry. And you brought up a great point of, well, who do we talk to about getting these marketing dollars out when there's this opportunity that's going to come up? So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about where we're at right now before we leave our meeting today, and also give you guys an invitation, and our greater membership an invitation to we created a survey, and a couple of the questions I've already asked are on that survey. So we've kind of started thinking about what those answers are. But we're also, like, once we kind of get some ideas from you, we're focusing on helping that outdoor recreation industry. So as our members in this coalition, we want to focus on what you're doing, what you guys have to offer. And we don't have the huge, we don't even have the budget that the state of Arizona does for marketing, but you know, possibly start getting out. We've hired Progressive Promotions, and Sarah's going to talk pretty quickly about what we have infrastructure-wise already for you. And we're building up from there. We would like to profile your businesses, and maybe short videos, maybe blog posts, kind of open to your ideas on that, and getting people aware of the impact that the outdoor recreation industry has. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, and she's going to show you some of the stuff we've got.
Hey y'all, I'm Sarah. Let me just get my share screen set up. I'm working with AWF, as Nikki said, to kind of do a little bit more of this marketing. And just like Ben, y'all are over here, but my monitor's over here, so I apologize. But we have a really quick survey on the website because we really want to get more of your voices out there and raise the outdoor rec industry. To kind of go with Ash's point, like Arizona is incredible to visit, so much open space, a lot of public lands that can be used, but there's not a whole lot of marketing of the outdoor rec industry and support of them. So that's kind of where we hope to lead by example, even though we have a very small shoestring budget. So we thought we would start with maybe a blog series or photos or whatnot about all the members and the different businesses that kind of define themselves as outdoor rec, or define themselves as, you know, needing public lands to really thrive, or needing public lands around their communities to really see their communities thrive, and write those stories and get them out there on social media. So today we started the Get Outdoors Arizona Facebook account, and we went through all of the members that we could find so far and followed their Facebook page through GoAZ. So you may have seen a little notification, and we've posted our first post. And the goal again there is just to see what y'all are doing on social media, figure out how we can support the outdoor rec community, what the conversation is happening, where are the pain points, and is there anything we can do from an online perspective or this kind of advocating for public lands perspective to help and get the word out. And then we're also focusing on Instagram. There's a lot of incredible Arizona Instagram accounts that share incredible pictures of the public lands, so we may as well continue to educate people on the importance of those public lands, what they are, and then how they can advocate for them, as well as introducing them to the businesses that are already out there advocating for these spaces for Arizonians, and for these families to go out in and get sane, and to hopefully travel too once all of this is a little bit easier. So we'd love for, you know, if we're not following you already, make sure you follow us and we'll follow you back. As you're posting, we'll try to see what we can do to support you. And as I said, if you can fill out the survey really quickly, it shouldn't take too long, so we can write some of these profiles about you and get some of your names out there and your good work out there and your passion for public lands.
Right on. Okay, Michael, were you able to get those links up on our chat?
They are on there. I'm going to put them up there again.
Fantastic.
I'm going to stop my
All right,
share.
Sarah, I'll drop your screen and put, hopefully, put the GoAZ one back on again. All right, so you guys have our links there. In the last couple minutes that we have, our vision is that we are having a Zoom meeting every month, and it would include a guest speaker. Definitely going to track down on who I can talk to at the Office of Tourism. Are there other guest speakers that you're interested in hearing from? Any last words on ways that we can support you? I kind of took a dart to try to dart at the board to try to figure out our time and date. If you have preferences, you can definitely let me know as to what when our next meeting is, but we'll definitely do these monthly. So it'll be about 4 weeks till our next one. But definitely need would like your feedback on that. Like I said, we're going to be finding from our calendar, you know, who's a good speaker that would take your ideas and put them in the right, you know, direct them to the people who can do stuff about them. When we do get back into doing any legislative work, you know, bringing in the movers and shakers on that end so that we can help get some advocacy going on. You know, we're advocating at first, of course, for the outdoor recreation industry, but going from there, you know, we do hope to get back at some point to making sure the Land and Water Conservation Fund gets funded, Arizona Heritage Fund is fully funded, and in the meantime, you know, making sure that those places, and those that legislation remains really vital. Even though we're supposed to be inside, as we're hearing, you know, a lot of people are going outdoors and would like to rent rooms and would like to you know, travel, and that resurgence is like Ben and Ash were saying, is a good opportunity coming up for us. So hopefully we can be on the front end of that curve for sure. So that's kind of a lowdown on what we're doing. I'm going to pass it back to Scott, and he can kind of wrap us up. But any other questions or thoughts before we do that? Awesome, Scott. It's to you.
Okay, well, great. Again, I guess I'll just reiterate, thanks again for joining. Thanks for signing on. Thanks for your comments. I'm like Bob, I'm really excited by this. I think that the local businesses and outdoor recreation economy in Arizona has been kind of unnecessarily silent or overlooked to some extent. So I think we can really do some great things if we start to get together and decide what we want to try to influence, and whether that's through, you know, state departments like Bob's, or whether that's in other ways. I look forward to doing that. So, you know, for starters here, Sarah was talking about the profiles we'd like to do on you guys. I realize you all run your own companies, you're capable of doing that, or you wouldn't still be in business. You know, maybe it's a small thing, but even just sharing those profiles, I do think that at this particular point in time, people tend to have a little bit more loyalty to the local businesses. And so hopefully we can help to get the word out there and help you through the difficult times. So I'm just really excited. If we do want this to work for you, otherwise we wouldn't be pulling it together. And so if it's not working for you, or if you think we're missing something when we're talking about what we're trying to accomplish, please speak up. You know, whether it's private phone call or an email, or you're willing to share it with the group here. It really doesn't make sense unless we're kind of working on the things that you think are important. And with that, I guess, you know, just thanks again. I think this is a great opportunity. I would love to see this grow over the next several years to be the kind of influential business coalition that really raises the voice for recreation in the state of Arizona, like it is in Colorado and a few other states. And I think we can absolutely be that. We've got tremendous resources in the state that we're all very proud of, and I think we've got a great opportunity ahead of us. So thanks again for signing on. We'll be in contact. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll talk to you in a month, if not before.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.